My fiance, 31 male, and I, 25 female, are getting married soon. There wasn't much that I disagreed on during the wedding planning, except for the food. My family and I are vegans, and there are so many reasons we chose this lifestyle, one of which is that we have a history of health issues. My fiance and his family are the complete opposite. They're hardcore meat eaters, which is fine by me. However, I wanted to add 4 or 5 vegan options when deciding on the wedding food menu. My fiance and his mom objected, saying it was a waste of money over food and that isn't real food. They also argued that this would be offensive for their guests and suggested my vegan options be the good old salads and appetizers. His mom wanted cupcakes, lol. I said no because, for one, it's my family and me who are paying, and 2, I want to make my guests feel welcome and not be treated as second-class citizens by being served salad. My fiancé made a face and said, "Isn't that what vegans eat?" I refused to argue about it and said it was final. The other day, I found out that he cancelled all the vegan options and took them off the menu entirely behind my back. I was seething. I called him at work, but he kept hanging up on me. I went straight to his workplace, confronted him there, and flipped out on him. He was stunned to see me. He at first said it was his mom's idea and then told me to go home because I was making a scene at the office. The fight continued at home and he defended himself by saying that I sort of made him resort to doing this after I kept brushing off his thoughts and input and refusing to accommodate his family. But there were plenty of meat options. Why can't I get 4 or 5 vegan options when I'm paying for it? He yelled that it was his wedding too, not my family's. My family said it was fine and they'll figure it out and told me to let it go, but I refused. Am I the idiot for putting my foot down on this? Not the idiot, so he has no clue what vegans actually eat and no interest in learning. He believes having food for your family is offensive to theirs, while having no food for your family is perfectly fine. He doesn't respect your input and your money. He makes decisions about matters important to you behind your back. He either can't stand up to his mom or uses her as his scapegoat. That's a lot of things to be really angry about. Why are you marrying this guy again? The other very toxic trait is hanging up when she calls him to discuss something important to her. What an absolute child OP is about to marry. Wait until you have kids, OP. He and his mother are going to drive you insane. She'll look back at this moment realizing it should have been her sign to run. Worse, imagine, God forbid, the kids have any allergy that stops them from eating things that everybody takes for granted, like peanuts or certain fats. I can already see mother-in-law going, "There are no such things as an allergy to..." I'm not the break up over anything type of person, but this dude isn't able to handle an adult relationship with mutual respect, and at his age, that's worrying. Another worrying thing that he's together with a vegan and obviously has no clue what vegans eat. I mean this sincerely. Reconsider marrying him. It's not about the food. It's about the secrecy and manipulation, the disrespect for your feelings, and the disregard for your money. Yes, OP, please get out now. Not only are you the one paying for the food, but a wedding is something you plan as a couple. He felt like you and your family's well-being during the catering wasn't as important as his. His mummy says salad and cupcakes are fine, so he cancels any food the family paying can eat. I'd cancel the wedding if I were you. He and his mummy are massive, massive idiots. We, him 31 and I 32, live in a small apartment with our toddler daughter. We're struggling financially and he hasn't been working since he broke his leg 8 months ago, so I'm bringing money in while saving for an AC because it's so hot where we live and the fans weren't enough. I bought an AC 2 months ago, put it in the living room and it made a huge difference because the apartment was hot. My husband kept huffing about buying the AC, saying I wasted money and should have just kept using fans. Finally, he told me that since I had no issue paying that much money for an unnecessary luxury, I had to pay him to go on a trip with his friends. I declined because I didn't have the money he was asking for, even after he said he'd pay me back later if I wanted. Also, his friends wouldn't let him go if he didn't pay. I suggested he skip it since it's an out-of-the-country type trip and very costly. Not to mention the stuff he'd need from food and sleeping equipment since they plan to go out in the wilderness. He threw a fit and said he'd skipped 3 trips so far and his injury no longer stood in his way, so he wanted to go. I suggested he go borrow money from someone and he got offended. Days ago, I discovered the AC was gone when I returned from work and freaked out. It turns out he sold it online and waited till I was away to remove it and take it. He tried giving me $100 to guilt me down, but I was seething. I yelled at him and he said he needed money, had nothing valuable left to sell, and thought the AC was unnecessary. Still, he offered to save and buy a new one once he started working. I demanded him to pay me back immediately, or I won't be staying in this place with these conditions. Even my daughter hates how hot it is here. He started arguing about my unreasonable stance, and I told him off. He got some of his friends contacting me, convincing me to let him go on the trip, then we'll figure something out later, and that his mental health was more important. But I responded that if they cared so much about it, then they shouldn't have expected him to pay to go with them, so they stopped speaking to me. Now he's accusing me of ruining the trip and alienating his friends. Not the idiot, he should get a damn job. AC isn't a luxury item. For some people living in certain areas, it could make the difference between life and death. Your husband thinks only of himself and what he wants. He has no business having the titles of husband and father. What a disgrace. Exactly. 8 months for a broken leg. So if he's well enough to go camping, he is damn sure well enough to get a job. His wife and kid need his support. Where do these useless spouses come from anyway? I think this is divorce-worthy. At this point, he's already acting like a bachelor, so why not? I'm confused why his friends are even involved. If any of them try to guilt you, I would thank and congratulate them on offering to pay for his trip, along with food, and CC all his other friends that reply. But let's be honest here, you're taking care of 2 kids. If you can't afford to take care of both, it may be best to drop one. I recommend dropping the one trying to gaslight you and make you feel like crap for buying an AC. Seriously, count the day he leaves on his trip as the day he moved out, pack up all his crap and drop them off with his homies. The dude cares more about his wants than his spouse and daughter's needs, and is sitting on his butt still 8 months after his injury. When my wife and I were discussing starting a family, we decided to move from California to the Midwest due to the cost of living. Of course, my mom wasn't happy, which I think is fine, but I can understand being disappointed when your kid moves out of state. Since moving, my mom has only visited once in 5 years. She's honest that she doesn't want to spend her vacation in the Midwest and that visiting us makes her uncomfortable. As a result, she doesn't know my children, but I feel like that is her choice, and as long as she's okay with the consequences of that choice, it's fine. My mom occasionally mentions we should visit California, but that's pretty rare. We don't talk much, she doesn't harp on it, and I don't know how much she cares versus she says things to fill the lapse in conversation, but it bothers my wife. She feels my mom has more time and money and she should visit. Honestly, I feel that we chose to move, so more of the burden should be on us. The issue is we're currently back in California for a wedding and a small family vacation, and my wife doesn't want to spend any time with my mom because she's so offended by her not visiting us. However, I did insist on spending at least 1 day with my mom. We spent 2.5 with my in-laws, and during the day, she called my mom manipulative multiple times for never visiting us and forcing us to come to her. My mom finally snapped at my wife that she doesn't owe us visits, and my wife was clearly offended and threw the word manipulative around because she was embarrassed. Finally, my mom admitted she gets more vacation time than most people, but says she still doesn't have limitless vacation time and there are places she wants to go. My wife looked at me and I knew she expected me to step in. I finally said my mom was right and we should either visit her or accept it and not see each other, but we're not entitled to my mom's time or money. And if she wants to keep calling her manipulative, then my mom has her blessing to call her out for being entitled. My wife didn't like that, and the rest of the visit was awkward. You're typically supposed to take your wife's side, but not the idiot. Your wife doesn't get that privilege if she's going to call your mom manipulative to her face. Who does that? She can't just be grateful she doesn't have an overbearing mother-in-law who's always there. Having a largely absent mother-in-law is far from the worst-case scenario. Everyone's the idiot here. Your mom has straight up said she doesn't want to spend her vacation time visiting you because she has other places she wants to be. Plus, it makes her uncomfortable, whatever that means. Your wife and mom clearly don't like each other and keep putting you in the middle, and then you turn around and instantly side with mommy, dearest. Did you ever stop to wonder if there's an actual conflict between these two women you could help mediate? Woof, everyone's the idiot here. You were right that your mom is not required to come to see you guys, but giving her your blessing to call your wife entitled was ridiculous and really crappy of you as a partner. You're also painting a picture where your wife is irrationally bothered by what, according to you, are very rare innocuous comments from your mother-in-law about how you should visit her more. So either your wife is being ridiculous, or there's more to your relationship or that issue that you're ignorant of or leaving out. Agree. Everyone's the idiot here. Just because you've moved doesn't mean it's your burden to travel more. These are just your circumstances now, and you guys will see each other when you can. If your mom wants to see you more, she can come out and visit. If you guys want to see her more, you'll go out to Cali. Both sides ask for more visits, yet neither wants to travel to the other. My grandparents own a big old cabin where every generation after them has enjoyed annual family vacations. Due to the cabin's age, constant maintenance needs to be done. Every time we've replaced, fixed or repaired something, there's another thing that needs fixing. We also started slowly renovating the cabin as the interior has become quite dated. These costs have become too much for my grandparents to handle alone, especially since their age means they can't do much of the work themselves, and they need to hire professionals instead. This has caused them to implement a fee system. The rule is as follows. Every person from the age of 20 must pay an annual fee to be allowed to stay at the cabin. The size of the fee varies as it's calculated according to how many people plan on using the cabin and how high the upkeep costs were the previous year. I've happily paid this fee since the rule was implemented, and so have my parents, aunts, uncles and cousins. Every summer, my extended family tries to find a weekend during the summer where most of our vacations overlap, so that we can all meet at the cabin and catch up. So I decided to invite my girlfriend along, as I want to introduce her to this tradition, as she's someone I imagine spending many future summers at the cabin with. She was ecstatic about the idea of meeting my extended family and going to the cabin, as she's very curious about it after hearing me talk about it a lot. Naturally, I sat her down and told her about the rule and how she needed to pay, as everyone else paid, and it was only fair for her to do so, since she would be using the cabin when coming with me this year. Unfortunately, this year's fee is around $200 to $400, depending on how many people use the cabin, due to a big roof leak and some pretty substantial water damage. The idea of paying this fee upset her, and we had a big argument where she concluded by saying she would make other plans without me this summer. The rule is straightforward and made completely fair to everyone. I don't understand why she thinks she should be exempt from it. My brother told her that I should pay her fee for her as my extended family really would like to meet her, but I really don't think that's fair for me to pay double the fee when she's completely capable of paying for herself. Am I the idiot? Hey baby, I love you and my family would love to meet you now that we've gotten serious. Now, would you like to pay to meet my family with cash or credit? You are the idiot. She's perfectly within her rights not to want to spend $200 to $400 for a weekend at a shared, broken-down cabin. It's not her family's property, she has no emotional attachments to it, and she may never reap the benefits of fixing it up. If she pays the fee and she only visits this one time and OP and she break up, is she entitled to use the rest of her contribution? Any refunds? Dude, she's your guest, not a family member who agreed to pay into the communal fund. Paying $200 to $400 to stay in a crappy cabin for a weekend with a bunch of strangers is an absurd ask. She might be expected to contribute if she ever chooses to marry OP, but as long as she's not part of the family, she should not be expected to pay. I mean, would OP also expect her to pay half his rent at his place if they're living separately, just because she occasionally visits his home? And she's already making plans this summer without him. I don't blame her. In Scotland, a common phrase goes, "He peels an orange in his pocket," which means someone is so cheap they don't want anyone to see them peel an orange for fear someone may ask for a segment. Usually kind of reserved for outrageously cheap or miserly behavior. You would be described as peeling oranges in your pocket, OP. You are the idiot, no question. However, I'm sure your girlfriend will look forward to many summers spent with you and your cheap, rude family. What a joy for her. My dad learnt about this last week, but I got the award at the start of May. Background: my parents are divorced, and until I was 7 my parents shared custody of me. My dad was remarried at the time and had 3 stepkids. His oldest stepkid's dad was moving for work and she wanted to move with him, and the court said she could. However, my dad's wife didn't want to be apart from her oldest or to separate her 3 kids, so she wanted to move as well. When Dad told me, I begged him to stay. He told me he had to be with his family and that them staying was not an option. So I told him he could stay for me, but again he said no. So he moved with them, and then I went from seeing him all the time to seeing him for a few weeks in the summer. I never forgave him for moving. Over the years, they attempted to make it appealing for me to live with them, saying I'd have siblings all the time and how great it was there and stuff. but I never wanted to leave my mom and I was too mad that he picked them over me. So I have faded from him over time. I only speak to him during court-mandated times and I don't see him unless I absolutely have to. He tries, but his choice was made when he moved, and my opinion on that is unchanging. My dad found out via Facebook about the award. Unfortunately, my school only put the photos up a week ago and my dad was really upset. He told me they could have flown out to show support, and it would have been a nice extra visit for us. I asked him what was the point, that his choice was made 9 years ago and that they were more important and my life didn't involve them anymore. He went on about him being my dad and deserving to know and how proud he was, etc. And why couldn't I see that, and why was I out to hurt him? I told him I wasn't trying to hurt him, but that I was never going to have that relationship he wanted after he left me to be with his family, and that all choices have consequences, which he and my mom taught me, and that he is now living with his, in that his daughter doesn't want a relationship with him anymore. His wife called afterward and told me I should have told him, and regardless of how I feel, he has a right to know. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, he chose to leave you. I think the bigger idiot here is the wife. She wanted to move to be near her daughter but didn't give a damn about him not getting to be near his daughter. Her daughter chose to leave her mom to be with her dad. You didn't choose to leave your father, you got left behind. So no, you don't owe him anything. He left to be with his new family without thinking about what it would do to your relationship with him. If the wife calls you again, tell her that all of this results from her being selfish when her daughter decided to leave her. Imagine looking your 7-year-old child in the face and saying, I can't stay here and be your dad, I have to move to be with my family, and not expect there to be consequences. Big, not the idiot. What you have there, babes, isn't a petty grudge. That's trauma, and it's damn valid. If I were you, I'd block him on Facebook and from your phone. He doesn't get to, quite literally, leave you in the dust and then attempt to guilt you into a relationship. He hasn't earned and doesn't deserve anything from you.